Yeah.
I'm
That's
fired up,
awesome.
man. Laura, you're firing me up over here.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a couple, like, I think we have like probably a couple more diving, Olympic,
Sure.
athletic sort of questions. And I'd love to also get into like, what does life look like now for you? And what are you up to these days? But I think that one thing that comes up for me is, almost like managing your ego. I mean, winning gold medals, right? That means literally there's no one better in the world, right, than you at this thing, right?
Mhm.
And it's that's pretty amazing, right? And I mean, so I'm curious, as you're coming up in the circuit, as you are beginning to compete, as you start to realize, oh my gosh, like I'm really good at this, maybe I could compete for a gold medal. Then you win one. How do you go about, like, how do you manage your ego, but also have a mentality, right? Of like, kind of a champion's mindset. And what's the difference between those two things? I mean, a lot of athletes do kind of have big, massive egos, but what I'm experiencing from you, Laura, is very down to earth.
Mm.
So, what is that? How do you manage those two things?
Well, I'm very thankful that I have been thoroughly humbled.
Mm.
Yeah, I think one of the best things, but one of the hardest things that I experienced, it turned out to be one of the best things for me, is after I won the Olympic Games. I had surgery on my foot because I had a broken foot. It was kind of this whole deal. I went back and finished school, and I'd only been training for a couple months again that next summer before we had a nationals. I was really nervous because the last time people saw me compete, I won the freaking Olympics. You know what I mean? So I was putting all this pressure on myself and like, what if I do bad? Who am I? Like, do I have all this new pressure? Like, what I'm trying to, figure this all out in my head. And I went to nationals and I did horrible, like absolutely horrible. I wasn't prepared. I'd only been in the water for 2 months. Like, it was a disaster. I got fifth place. And it was the best thing that could have happened because I realized after diving terrible, after getting fifth place at nationals, after winning the Olympics, kind of a fall from grace, all the people in the pool deck were just like, I'm so glad you're back. It's so good to see you diving again. It's awesome that you're here. And it was like, what? Like, it was so shocking to me. Like, I don't know what I expected. And I'm sure there were people that probably said something, awful in the back, but nobody said that to my face, and all I got was this grace from people and people happy that I was there, and I realized that, like, who I am is not like, we wrap up our identities in our performance all the time, whether it's sports or academics or business or whatever it is. We wrap our identity in something. And to realize that my identity was separate from my place on the podium in that moment was huge. And it reminded me of the times I had seen these legends. Like, there was this Russian diver, Dmitry Stoughton, who was always like my idol. Like, I just thought he's like the king. We called him King Stoughton. He was amazing. And I remember watching him do a really bad dive one time. I think he hit the board or something, and it was awful. And he was like out of the contest or whatnot. And I remember like, well, that sucks. Like, I can't believe he did that. But it didn't make me think he was a bad diver. Like, he had a bad moment, he had a rough dive. Like, we've all done that. And it really started to make me think about all those times I had seen these legends do that and realizing that we're all really just human. And yes, you can have a great meet, but like, the next one isn't written yet. You have to earn that all over again. And I think that's something, like, once you have reached the top, trying to figure out, like, people start competing sometimes like they're trying not to lose the title, when really you don't have the next one promised to you. You have to earn it all over again. And so it's trying to figure out how to turn those gears now that you're in this new place of being more of a leader instead of like the underdog coming from behind. You have to learn how to kind of like let that go. And every meet is still a new opportunity. You're still fighting for it just like everybody else, and realizing that. And I think for me, that was like a great humbling. And I had a similar thing. I mean, I won 2005 World Championships, and at the very next World Championships, I got ones on a dive and almost didn't even make it to the semifinals. And I was so mad and so embarrassed. But at the same time, it was like, well, I can just sit here and pout about it, or I can fix what I did wrong and come back and do well, And so I'm thankful for the times that my ego has been severely bruised so that I could learn those lessons and move forward in humility, which I think is a much better place to give you an opportunity to do something great.
I'm a fan, Laura. Like, wow.
Dude, Mike, you're cheesing over there.
Well, yeah.
I love watching like the side by side. It's been awesome.
One other fun story and a reason for great humility. Because
And I want to say the reason why, before you say it, the reason why I want to say I'm such a fan is the identity component of what you're saying here is
For
that
sure.
you are who you are is not what you are. And you're saying that I have to earn it over and over and again. Just because I won it once doesn't mean I'm going to win the next one. And like, that doesn't register for every human. And that what you said, that everyone's having this human experience and that I just need to continue like to improve or get better. Like the next one isn't earned or the next one isn't won yet. I still have to earn the next one. Like that was, I just wanted to double click on that and make sure every listener caught that, because that was so beautiful. And I felt like you were just speaking to me for a moment. Like I felt like you were just like speaking into my soul. So I really, gosh, Laura, thank you. Sorry to interrupt your flow, but I just want to make sure the audience captured, what just happened there.
No, good. I'm glad this is sinking in. And another thing along those lines, and a good reason to keep humility is I did see an athlete who won a gold medal at one of the Olympics I was at. And then he tattooed goat on his arm and went to another Olympic Games and did not win. So, I'm not sure even what he was thinking in that, but to me, it was like you kind of took yourself out when you just tried to make that permanent in your mind. And I'm sure he did that to try to put his mind in a certain place, but then he went and kind of failed under the banner of the tattoo that he got. So it was kind of like, what did you just do with that? So I think he was trying to force himself to think a certain way that maybe he didn't even believe. And so it really, those things always make me think like, why did he do that? Why shouldn't I do that? What was the ramification of that? Like, yeah, he was the greatest in that one moment. But when you come back and don't repeat that and you've tattooed it on your arm, like, what does that say about you or what you're doing? And I think, and I never saw him again after that second episode. So I don't know how that played out in his mind. I worry about people like that. So I think we need to be able to take a step back and have that humility, because your life will go on after your athletics are over, after whatever you're doing is over. Like there comes a point where you're probably going to retire from your job, when school is over, when all these things that we have put our identity into are taken from us in a way. And so who are you then? And you need to be okay with that person, and you need to accept that person and be able to know that you have worth and value just because you're you.
And you just struck a curiosity for me. Okay. Because I'm curious on, you pursue this dream of getting to the Olympics, you get into the Olympics, but the gold medal doesn't give you a paycheck, to my knowledge. Now, I don't know anything of the financial aspect of winning the Olympic gold, and that's why I'm very curious on this, because it's not every day you meet, a Olympic gold medalist. But I'm very interested in this because you see someone like a Michael Phelps. Like when I hear Olympic gold medalist, I think of Michael Phelps. But I see Michael Phelps on endorsements and all these other things. And then people around me say that's where he makes his money, is like the endorsements after the Olympics. It's not in the pursuit of the Olympics. And I'm like, well, how is he making money during the journey? Or like, is money guaranteed at the end of the journey? Or are there like promises that are unfulfilled? Is this like, so I don't know, like we grow up in a society, go to college, get a degree, and then you start making money after college. But your path is like, go to college, actually I'm going to go to the Olympics and go to the Olympics and win with these world titles and all these things. And then it's like, I'm out, but shit, I don't have like a lot of money saved. Like, it's not like I had, investments working for me as I was pursuing these dreams. So again, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but I'm genuinely interested on the financial side of pursuing this dream. And like, is there any consideration of that as you're pursuing the dream at all?
For sure. And there's like an ongoing joke that like divers dive because we love the sport, because you're not going to get paid for it. Like very few divers find a way to make a living out of it. That's why most of them retire after college or very shortly after that. It's hard because you may have to work a full-time job and train on the side, which means you're not giving yourself the full opportunity to do physically what you think you can. So it is like smaller sports like ours tend to have a lot harder time finding that longevity. I know I have some bobsledding friends too, where they have to raise like $70,000 for their equipment alone, like just for the bobsleds and things like that. So it can be very costly for somebody going down the Olympic road, and usually not a lot of payback. That's why sponsors are very helpful. Finding a sponsor that can like help you get through that journey, or a number of sponsors. And so like if you guys see athletes and you follow athletes that you like and they are promoting a product, support that product, like buy that product with that athlete's link or tag, because you are supporting that athlete in their pursuit. They're trying to make a living to accomplish this dream. It is very difficult. And in these smaller sports, only the top people are really finding a way to make a good living at it. And even then, I'm not sure how good you would consider it. So you can get a small amount for winning an Olympic medal. I don't know if it's the same. It was the same for a really long time. It was $35,000 when I won. And then I think maybe 20 for silver and 15 for bronze. I'm not sure. It may even be the same. I don't even think it's changed. Maybe it's gone up a little bit. But that's just for the medal. So if you don't have any sponsors, that's it. That's what you get, which is great, but that's one time every 4 years. That's not income.
Yeah,
and that's
not a long-term strategy. Yeah.
Right. So finding sponsors to help you year to year on the journey in between the games is really helpful. Sometimes it's like athletic apparel is very common, things like that. And yes, if you win, you can tend to pick up more sponsors and more opportunities like that, like Michael Phelps, who obviously is a level above everyone else in the world. He is quite amazing. But that doesn't happen very often. We don't have a pro circuit. I know swimming does have a pro circuit. Track and field has a pro circuit where they can actually earn money at competitions, during the year and stuff. They've tried to do that a few times in diving, but I think there's one, but they don't even have the meets every year, and it's very minimal. So it is tough, and it's trying to figure out, can I find enough sponsors? Do I need to balance this with a part-time job? There's a Home Depot used to have a program where you could work part-time to get full-time support from them. So I'm not sure what's still available in those lines, but it's a tough road. It's a really tough road, and it's stressful. If you have a sponsor only for a year and you're like, but I got 4 years left, of my journey. So it's a really stressful thing. We had a hard time with that too. Me coming back in 2017, my husband was working part-time as a swim coach so he could be with the kids while I was training, as full-time as I could. And so we were trying to find sponsors, and that was really difficult. Me being this old lady, on the circuit, I hadn't done anything for a number of years. So nobody really wanted to jump on board until I found, I connected with this group, OrthoFix, when I had my surgery on my neck. Apparently I had a bunch of their equipment inside me, and I was using one of their bone growth devices to help heal. And so we connected. I became a spokesperson for their products, and their people that work there were amazing. So sometimes you can get really lucky and find those, kind of unique situations, but oftentimes it's a grind. Just you are fighting to make that dream happen, not just physically, but monetarily, financially, it's tough.
And that's why I was so curious. And I thank you, Laura, for satisfying the curiosity, because that's how I envisioned it, in my mind. That is there's no way there's not some sort of potential financial consequence or drawback to pursue this dream. And I just want to acknowledge you and your husband and your family to create the space where you could pursue your dream regardless, and have enough faith to say, hey, we're going to pursue this dream. We're going to be the best at what I do in the history of mankind. I'm going to be number one in my categories during these years, name on the record book. And we're going to take a hit financially while I pursue this.